Rising of the Shield Hero is shit. Here's a quick question. What do you get when you use one creative plot point to disguise the fact that you're still just writing another generic isekai? If you answered pretentious audience, then congratulations, you are correct. Seriously, just take a look at this pile of bullshit. Ari Fureta? Overlord? ReZero? I actually kind of like the latter two, but even I know they're not these quote-unquote subversions of the genre. But of course, the one I had the most trouble understanding is our topic of discussion today, the wish fulfillment hero. The funny part is that Ari Fureta came out right after this schlop, and people saw it for the garbage that it was. That had me scratching my head, honestly, because while yes, Shield Hero is without a doubt slightly better, the two still very much have the same theme, which is sweet, sweet justice porn. But I guess one gets a pass simply for coming out first. Whatever. That's not important to me. What's important is the fact that a lot of people still think this waste of money is actually a masterpiece. They're wrong. It honestly baffles me how this show was so popular in the first place. There was so much wrong with this show that I was seriously contemplating going through each and every episode and just systematically deconstructing all of them. But halfway through the process, I realized it was way more effort than it deserved. So this standalone review is all it's getting. But before all of you start coming after me in the comments for being a toxic prick, I'm just going to go ahead and say that I'm not saying you can't like it. If you enjoy the show for what it is, then that's completely fine. I personally just can't stand it when a show I see as so flawed getting called a masterpiece when there are actual better pieces of work in the same genre that far surpass it. Well, if you really hate it that much, then why not just ignore it? Well, that's because I believe you can't only watch things you like. You have to watch bad stuff every now and then to expand your taste. Plus, going through a bunch of crap will make you appreciate the good stuff even more. For example, watching both Trapped in Another World with my smartphone and Master of Ragnarok have convinced me even more that Digimon is the best isekai in existence. Also, if it wasn't clear enough, I do this kind of thing for the sake of a video, and I get a sick high from shitting on the things you love. Everyone has a right to voice their opinions. If you choose to phrase it, good on you, that's your right to do so. However, if I didn't like it, I also have the right to make fun of it. It's a two-way street, pal, and you're just going to have to deal with that. Okay, so where do I even begin? I guess the plot is a good place to start as any, and unfortunately I'm going to have to cover majority of the first episode to give you a full picture of what's going on. Oh lord, I forgot the pilot was that long. Hold on, let me just... Okay, let's do this. Meet Naofumi Iwatani, a college sophomore with some otaku tendencies. Hey look, he left his game on overnight. Isn't he oh so relatable, you guys? Apparently he managed to stop his brother from quote-unquote...
I brought my kid brother back in line when he started Breaking Bad.
So his parents let him freeload off them. But he's just an otaku, guys. Not a shut-in. He's way above those losers. After deciding to head to the library one day, he coincidentally stumbles upon some plot symbolism. One book in particular catches his attention, and after taking a quick peek, he finds that this dandy piece of literature tells the tale of 4 heroes who each carry a characteristic weapon: a spear, sword, bow, and a shield.
I guess all 4 of them are the main protagonists.
Oh, I fucking wish that was the case, you twat. He runs into an empty page and is promptly transported into the book. That operates like a video game. We'll get to that in a second. He finds himself in the presence of a bunch of cult dudes, along with 4 other guys. One thing I will compliment on this scene is the other characters' reactions. They are understandably on guard, and start questioning these shady-looking people who claim to have summoned them. What's this? The isekai victims are actually being smart and cautious instead of just taking everything square in the face? Nice! Don't get used to it, however, because this marks the only time that they are more competent than Lord Naofumi-sama. Because you can't have other guys who are in the same age range as the protagonist to be good people. Otherwise it wouldn't make sense when a bunch of girls fall in love with this loser instead of actual functional members of society. Anyway, the 4 heroes are taken into the royal hall, where they're now within the presence of the king of this country, who notably treats Naofumi like shit compared to the rest. Can someone say victimization? In short, the 4 of them have been summoned to fend off an apocalyptic prophecy that has been placed on this world. Said prophecy speaks of waves of calamities that come in, well, waves. Apparently they discovered that the current manpower on hand just wasn't going to be enough, so they followed the prophecy and summoned these 4 to help them. And wouldn't you know it, that's the same story as the book Naofumi was reading. Long story short, they agreed to cooperate on the condition that they don't turn on them and provide support wherever they can, such as finances and the like.
Good lord, are they full of themselves.
I think that's a pretty reasonable request, honestly. Since they're the ones who summoned these 4 out of the blue, they should be prepared to lend assistance. But sure, Naofumi, they're being full of themselves, Mr. Good Boy. Just to be clear, I'm not saying characters who are nice are automatically bad, because if I was, I'd be a massive hypocrite for what I'll be shitting on Naofumi for later. All I'm saying is that you don't have to be a complete fucking retard to be a decent human being. In the case that you are, then you're an insufferable piece of shit until proven otherwise.
The lower right corner of your vision.
Huh? Oh, hey. Now I do.
Try focusing your attention on it.
Like this?
Okay, here we go. We are now going to discuss a key issue that I have not just with Shield Hero, but with majority of modern isekai. Start with the video game terminology. It's becoming very contrived very fast. I know a lot of you are going to point out that this world is derived from a game, but that's not a damn excuse. As far as I'm concerned, you should be able to properly convert the gameplay mechanics of the game into actual aspects of real life. Don't understand? Alright, listen up. Let's take a look at Undertale, a game that actually incorporates this concept that I'm talking about into its story, and rather creatively I might add. Allow me to try and explain. Let's say you're a noticeably scrawny dude. So, in order to fix that, you start going to the gym 5 times a week, clean up your diet, and start fixing your nasty habits like your sleep schedule. Okay? Stay with me here. Now, let's just say that with each and every muscle you build from training, you gain 1 level, but the process of your training leaves you drained of mana and HP. Your diet, depending on what you eat, determines how much you recover your mana. Junk food with little nutritional value recovers less mana, but foods filled with lots of good carbs, which gives you a lot of energy, will help you recover more mana. Meanwhile, foods with lots of protein will help you recover HP, as in muscle recovery, and a good night's sleep will instantly max out your health bar. What the fuck are you going on about, you idiot? Well, in case you didn't notice, what I'm doing is basically taking the system within a typical RPG and twisting it up a bit to fit within the logics of real life. Because believe it or not, status bars don't just pop up in real life. You're supposed to convert these game mechanics into real-world aspects, something which Undertale does with its world. For example, EXP in Undertale actually stands for execution points instead of experience points. And what this stat measures is the amount of pain you have inflicted onto other living creatures. And once you've accumulated enough EXP, your LV increases. LV stands for level of violence instead of character level, which measures your capacity to hurt someone. And do you see how well that correlates with the EXP stat? It's a pretty smart and clever way to establish the way the fantasy aspect of the world without being contrived as hell. Taking pre-designed game mechanics and shoving it directly into your world without changing it in the slightest is not creative nor innovative in the slightest. It's just a lazy way to set up your power system, and it's been done to death by modern isekai. Black Clover instantaneously has a better power system than every modern isekai simply for being a battle fantasy anime that doesn't use video game terminology. And it really pains me to say that because I hate Black Clover. The sad thing, however, is that Shield Hero is one of the shows that commits this problem slightly better, because at least it tried to make the two aspects correlate by making the world based on a game. Some shows don't even bother doing that. Looking at you, Ari Ferretta. So, moving the fuck on finally, the first order of business is for the heroes to set out on a journey to train and level up their respective weapons. However, they have to travel separately because their weapons apparently repel each other. Although that would certainly help set up limiters so that 4 bastards with legendary gear can't just gang up on every threat, I can't exactly say that makes a whole lot of sense. Because you'd think when a prophecy tries to shove you and a bunch of people to work together, the conditions would actually allow you to do that instead of the opposite. But hey, they cooperate with each other on several occasions later on anyway. So I guess even the author realized how stupid this idea was. You know, if he was actually smart and wanted to write an actual good story instead of otaku pander, he would have kept them together as much as possible, to make it easier to develop them all as characters. But he's not aiming to be either of those two. They're given housing within the castle for the night, with intentions of heading out first thing in the morning. We're then presented with some much needed bonding time between the boys, and it's honestly kind of nice. All jokes aside, this scene actually accomplishes a lot, which is not only giving us more exposition on the characters' backgrounds, but also shows to me that a friendship between these 4 would actually be kind of nice. I'm being serious. The conversation flows surprisingly smoothly, and they actually have some pretty good chemistry together. But you're not here to see camaraderie between dudes. You're here to see a power fantasy of a game otaku surrounded by women at his beck and call. Who cares about this friendship crap? We don't need that garbage. That would actually be compelling character writing, and apparently if you're an isekai, you're not allowed to have that unless you're Digimon Adventure. Before we move on though, I should also probably bring up that despite all of them coming from Japan, they come from different parallel universes of it, meaning their worlds aren't exactly the same. And it just so happens that instead of a book, this world exists as a game in Ren, Motoyasu, and Itsuki's version of Earth, and they just so happen to be veteran players of it. Now Fumi, of course, has never played it, because it doesn't exist in his world. A factor I actually kind of liked when I first heard it. Don't worry, it shoots itself in the foot later on. You'll see in a bit. The very next morning, the four wake up to a bunch of adventurers filling up the hall, all of whom were gathered there by the king. One in particular catches Naofumi's attention. Of course, they have the right to choose which hero they want to work with, and unsurprisingly, nobody goes for Naofumi, because he's an unlucky boy. Only bad things happen to him, and the show heavily relies on you feeling that way. Oh, by the way, rumors of Naofumi not knowing jack shit about this world have already spread, meaning their conversation was leaked. Just when it seems like he's about to be forced to go out alone, one of the girls from Motoyasu's party offers to join him. Guess who it is? So that's that. The four of them can come over and replenish resources here once a month, and now Fumi's getting a higher amount this one time due to obvious reasons. Setup over, let's hit the road, people. The next few sequences don't really need to be covered in much detail. To sum it up, Naofumi's new comrade, Mine, takes him to get new gear where they meet a kind blacksmith that sells them armor before going off to grind some levels. Also, apparently the heroes can't use any other weapons besides the one that was bestowed upon them. Just thought I'd throw that information out there. If I'm being honest, this is probably where Shield Hero shines its brightest. All shit aside, the first 4 episodes are actually pretty good because actual adventuring is happening without any form of ego stroking. We get to see more of the world they're currently in, observing the several different lifestyles and cultures present, as well as experience quite a few eye-capturing locations and the deadly creatures that lurk in them. It really felt like a good old-fashioned fantasy story. Unfortunately, that all goes down the drain when it turns out Mine was actually a lying, manipulative whore that was just using Naofumi to strip him of all his rights and put herself in a position that was personally pleasing to her desires. So basically, a pretty accurate depiction of a real-life woman. There's just so many things wrong with this whole framing scene that just, ugh, my brain hurts. To start, there was hardly enough physical evidence to go off of. Mine, who claimed that Naofumi assaulted her, had no wounds or gashes or anything to indicate a struggle. She claims that he started tearing off her clothes, yet they're still in perfect condition? There's also the issue with the fact that absolutely nobody is questioning the legitimacy of the accusations whatsoever. Even the other heroes, who were shown to be pretty sharp and observant earlier, didn't call out any of the flaws in the accusations.
I said you shouldn't hit a woman. I'm just saying, how come you can't ask questions? You can only ask questions about what the guy did. You can never ask about the woman. Why is that?
Plus, even when you disregard all of these factors, Naofumi doesn't even need their testimonies. Mine stole his armor and gave it to Motoyasu, presenting it as a gift to the man. Just tell them to go to the blacksmith and have him call out her bullshit, you fucking retard. I'm sure he can at least remember which hero bought that thing from his shop. Note that I never once mentioned the controversy that was surrounding this scene. I honestly couldn't care less if the show wanted to demonize women in the slightest. I'm not shitting on this part of the story because of morality. I'm shitting on it because it's a horribly written scene. But dude, it's pretty clear that the king and his daughter twisted things to their benefit. They're evil and corrupted after all. Yeah, how so? Because from my understanding, the job of a ruler is to ensure the prosperity of his country. And from the looks of it, the people seem pretty okay to me. The reason that there's so much unease is because of the impending disaster of the prophecy. And no, just because some villagers are poor doesn't mean it's a corrupt country. Poverty is present everywhere, no matter fucking what. Well, that's because only the 2 of them are corrupt. The queen is the one that holds all the power, which is why things are okay. And she was sure quick to take Naofumi's side over her own husband and daughter, wasn't she? That's some great characterization right there. Honestly, the setup for this entire world is such a mess, it's embarrassing. Every time when something seems like it's going to make sense, we get a little more detail that just throws it off the fucking rails. Also, there's a beach episode, cause that's totally what I wanted to see in a fantasy adventure. Am I right? I'm glad the show is taking notes from other masterpieces like that smartphone isekai. Let's face it, the only reason Naofumi was framed was because the author couldn't figure out any other way to bring him into the spotlight. And also because he wanted to pander to a bunch of otakus.
That's textbook pandering.
If he stopped thinking with his penis for a second, he would see that the series could have still worked out if he had just let these other 3 be protagonists as well. Let Naofumi be the weakest, and allow his journey of overcoming his unfortunate weapon class be his rise as the shield hero. But not to worry, because although the plot and setting might be hot garbage, the characters aren't nearly as bad. They are so much worse. I'm not joking, the cast of Shield Hero is worse than SAO, because all of them are horrible.
You take that back!
I mean, goddamn. At least SAO had Klein as a saving grace. Let's start with Naofumi, the virtue signal hero. Although he started off as a boy scout at the beginning, that quickly goes out the window after that little framing incident. After that, he becomes an angry boy, the quiet, broody, I'm too cool to ever not be an asshole boy. I'm sure a lot of you are going to say that his frustration is justified, and I'm not going to say it's not. That said, however, it doesn't change the fact that it becomes boring as fuck to watch him like this. Sure, it was pretty entertaining to see him embrace his new infamous reputation that was wrongfully placed on him, but it stopped being amusing and quickly became annoying when he's reduced to just having one emotion. Not to mention, the show seems to use the fact that he got framed as an excuse to just hand everything to him. The first red flags of this begin appearing during the 5th episode, where almost everyone with notable levels of importance are validating every single one of his actions. He effortlessly wins a race against a dragon by riding a bird that's only 2 days old, and his arch rival is reduced to a joke. But dude, that's because the bird was actually a special breed of its species. And as for why those mysterious people in the cloaks helped him, it's because they were under orders of the queen. Really? Out of all those eggs, he just so happened to pick the one with the special creature inside it. And those agents just so happened to be in the area when this whole debacle was going on. And their first instinct after seeing everything that went down was to ostracize the princess for carrying out orders given out by the king, which is being defied by someone who has a bad reputation. Can someone say treason? But sure man, this all makes perfect sense. I'm sure it's totally not blatant pandering to those disgusting otakus watching at home. Do I really need to explain to you people of the basic concept that just because it's explained doesn't automatically give it a pass? The explanation actually has to make sense. This constant victimization just to give Naofumi the moral high ground is fucking infuriating, and it comes with the cost of making just about everyone else worse. Mine never gets to be anything more than just a one-dimensional cunt whose very existence is to act antagonistically towards Naofumi, so he can justifiably humiliate her and make all the losers watching this show feel good. That's honestly not too much of a surprise to me. What pisses me off more though, is the fact that the show screws over all the other guys. The spear hero, who was shown to be reasonably cunning and smart in the first episode, is reduced to a sputtering idiot who's suddenly so incompetent that he can't even stand on his own 2 feet. And it's not just him, the other two weren't spared either. It doesn't matter that they actually took his side in episode 4. No male besides the protagonist is allowed to be good. To encapsulate what I mean, allow me to make comparisons between episode 3 and episode 11. When the first wave finally arrived in the 3rd episode, Naofumi was only able to defend a single village by himself, while the other heroes were able to take care of the big bad with ease. This was actually really good as it shows the gap between Naofumi and the other 3. They were higher leveled, had better equipment, and had way more experience. Plus, it showed Naofumi slowly getting the trust of the people in a slow and compelling manner. Well, throw all of that into the shredder, because by the 11th episode he's not only caught up to them, but he's left them in the fucking dust. All the other heroes were completely incapable of doing anything against the 2nd wave, and had to be completely saved by Naofumi and his new edgy darkness powers. Now this wouldn't be too big of a problem, except for the fact that it doesn't make sense, you fucking nitwit! But dude, Naofumi was working really hard. It shouldn't be a surprise that he surpassed them.
Oh, good for you!
So fucking what if he worked hard? These guys weren't just sitting around twiddling their goddamn thumbs. They were grinding just as much as he was. Not to mention, they've played the damn game this world was based on. They were veteran players, so they're the ones who should be aware of all the secrets and tactics that these monsters would bring to the table. Instead, they are completely clueless, and Captain America over here, who's had less experience and whose only exposure to this world before getting transported is reading a few pages from a book, is already a better player than them. Also, what happened to that shield being only a tank item? This piece of shit is dealing more damage than actual attack weapons. So in conclusion, all the other heroes are the bad guys because they're arrogant, obnoxious assholes who behave like douchebags to everyone, and Naofumi is the good guy for behaving the exact same way. But that's okay, because the plot caters to his needs, and he was framed. He was wrong. Boo! Someone get a tissue for the poor baby. Okay, screw that guy. Let's just move on. Let's see, well, there's Reptalia. She's a raccoon girl. She was a slave. She's in love with Naofumi, and yeah, that's pretty much all she's got going for her. To be fair, her devotion to the man is pretty understandable considering he rescued her from her shitty living conditions and gave her a happier life. And I actually did like the dynamic they initially had where she acted as the attacker and Naofumi on defense. It was a combo that was good because it gave them both important roles that required them to rely on each other. Too bad Naofumi becomes so freaking broken that she eventually becomes obsolete. By that point, she's just another damsel in distress who goes from genuinely strong to so uselessly weak that Naofumi has to save her every damn time. And then there's... You. I hate you. I fucking hate you so goddamn much. Philo is without a doubt the most useless, misused, and out of fucking placed piece of shit in this entire series. She makes me want to commit child murder. She's the reason KFC is a necessity. Her entire existence is the show self-sabotaging itself. The second she showed up, everything started going downhill. She serves no purpose besides being Naofumi's form of transport, and as much as the fans try to deny it, this is a harem anime, and she's just another bimbo in Naofumi's harem and nothing else. Literally nothing would change if she just stayed a bird. But gotta get that lolly bait, you know what I'm saying? She made the show go from a tragedy to a harem comedy. My question is why? Just why? Her relationship with Naofumi is hollow and means nothing. Did you just want a little girl in the party? You already have Raptalia for that shit. All you had to do was keep her physically as a child, and you'd still have a pretty compelling father-daughter relationship. You fucked yourself over when you decide to turn her into this. And while we're on the topic, Raptalia is an underaged child. She is a child. The show tries to convince you otherwise by saying that these animal humans age with their levels, but again, that doesn't make any sense. You do realize that's not how the logic of growing older works, right? You only count as aging upwards based on the number of years you've been alive. So sure, she might look like an adult, but she's still mentally a child, you degenerates. Raptalia is 10 years old, and Philo is 10 days old. As for the other characters, there's really not much left to say. I've already said how all the other heroes are nerfed to the ground to make Naofumi look better. Mine and the Spear Hero were neutered so hard that they became even bigger jokes than Team Rocket, and every single female they meet from this point onwards is nothing but more and more members for Naofumi's harem. And yes, they're all minors. You don't even have any special circumstance like being a demi-human or shape-shifting bird. You're just a normal human child. I'm not usually one to rave about morality and how pedophilia is wrong, but this is just plain creepy. What a waste of fucking resources. And now comes the real question. A lot of you actually stuck around and actually see the logic in my points are now probably wondering, well damn, if it really is this bad, then why did so many people love it? And the answer is pretty simple. The viewing of anime is, at the end of the day, just a hobby for most people that they like to indulge in to escape the stress of real life. Therefore, when they're finally able to kick back and relax, they don't want to analyze every single frame of a Chinese cartoon and write an entire essay of what they think. They just want to take it in for what it is. That's not to say they're completely incapable of thinking critically. The existence of so much infamous pieces of media is proof that if something is so blatantly bad, then even those who aren't paying too close attention will notice its flaws. That said, the fact still stands that not everyone is trying to be a critic. If something makes a good impression and comes off as enjoyable right off the bat, then many will levitate towards it. It's the illusion of good quality. The Shield Hero is just another generic harem fantasy wish fulfillment, but it disguised itself as a tragic story with its first few episodes, fooling the majority into thinking it was something new and inventive. And after getting most of the people completely invested, it became lazy and started showing its true colors. But it hardly matters at that point because to fanboys, once something is good, it can never become bad to them. It's an incredibly stupid and brain-dead mentality that I will never ever agree with. However, I'd be lying if I said I don't understand the phenomena of it. Which then brings us to the subject of why I decided to do this video. What exactly was I trying to prove? If I knew full well that these fools would never be swayed no matter what I say, then why even bother? Well, isn't it obvious? As said before at the beginning of the video, I just love making fun of the things people love. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.